What's good, people? 8 minutes past 9 p.m. Sunday, the 3rd of April 2022. Ramadan Kareem to everybody who that applies to. Ramadan Day 2. So this is a very, very exciting Blockchain Sensei webinar, Blockchain Sensei episode, because it's the first ever Blockchain Sensei webinar to do with non-digital assets, to do with physical assets. Oh my God. We're talking about how to make money on property you don't own. Quick disclaimer, then on to Zeshan. So all our content is for education, information, and entertainment purposes only. No information should be considered investment advice or a financial recommendation to buy, sell any assets or place any trades. Please always do your own research. It is very important to do your own analysis before doing any or making any investments based on your own individual circumstances. Shout out Safi and coming in the room. Always take independent professional advice from a professional advisor or independently research and verify all and any information you may find in our content that you wish to rely upon whether you wish to make an investment decision or otherwise. All investments come with risk. Please always do your own research. Neither myself nor Zeshan nor anybody who's currently on the Blockchain Sensei page are financial advisors, and we do not intend to be perceived or received as financial advisors. All investments do come with risk. Please always do your research. However, we are working in collaboration with several accredited advisors. If you're unable to mitigate your risk, please contact us immediately. You can contact us by DMing financial advisor to blockchain.sensei Instagram, and someone from the team will point you towards a financial advisor. Again, nothing here is financial advice, it's money education. Again, if you're unable to mitigate your risk, please do that, and we will refer you to an accredited financial advisor. Without further ado, it is 9 past 9 p.m. Zeshan, you got to go at 10 p.m. Did you say?
I'm flexible, so I can go slightly after 10.
Okay, thank you very much. So Zeshan, let me pass it on to you. Assalamu alaikum, my bro.
Wa alaikum salam. First of all, thank you for having me, Ninja, for giving me a platform to share my story and hopefully give each and every single one of you a bit of value and actually show you some some actionable steps as to how to actually get started in property using none of your own money, which I know you'll hear a lot of people saying it's not possible, but on the lower end of the scale of rent to rent, it is possible, which I'm going to show you a bit more about. I've got some slides, but before I go into those slides, I'm just going to share you a little bit about my story and how I actually got to where I am today. Ninja, are you going to be admitting them in, or do you want me to do it?
I am unable to admit anyone in because you are the host, so I can't.
Okay. Okay, cool. I'll just do it whenever I see them.
Yes,
so yeah, as Ninja mentioned, my name is Zeshan, 22 years old, and currently at the moment I've got 2 Airbnb properties and 1 development project that I'm doing with my parents now. I'm going to tell you how I started, and then as I go through my journey and my story, I've got some slides with me that I'm going to just share a bit more information. So my journey in property actually started back in 2019 when I actually went to a 3-day seminar, a free event, basically showing me an introduction to property, the many different things that you can do within property, like developments, service accommodation, which is a bit like turning a property into a hotel, HMO, renting out each room to students, working professionals, developments, selling these sort of deal sourcing. And that was in 2019 around October, November time. And then over the next 15 months, a year and a half, I was actually researching different strategies, looking into YouTube, looking at the people who are having a lot of success in each of those specific strategies. And it wasn't until I actually came across, wanted to learn a bit more about service accommodation. So I came across someone on social media who was quite good at it, paid him quite a bit of money to teach me how to do it.
Are you allowed to disclose how much you paid?
So I paid him about 3.8, 3.9.
You know why that's so important? Because people want to be successful in the world of financial literacy without spending a penny on education. So the takeaway from that immediate lesson is Zeshan spent 3.8 grand before you made a penny, right?
Yeah.
Not that I'm saying everybody should spend that exact amount, but just the willingness to spend that amount. But you carry on. So I'm so excited because I've seen this.
Yeah, so essentially I paid someone thousands of pounds just to teach me how to be successful within service accommodation, which is what I was interested and wanted to learn about. So this was in, I think it was April of 2021. So literally about a year ago, 11, 12 months ago, which is when I paid him to teach me. About a month in within him teaching me, I got my first deal, which was in London, King's Cross, service accommodation, a couple of months. So let me also tell you, so over that period of 15 months, while I was researching, I was also saving a lot of money. So I wasn't really spending money on things I didn't need or things like that. I managed to save about 18 grand within about 15 months because I was just working so hard in my job and just saving all that money. So I put 4 grand for someone to teach me, and I got that deal. Then a couple of months after,
wait. You saved £18,000 sterling in 15 months.
Yeah.
You didn't trade your way up. You didn't flip your way up. You just worked your job and saved.
Yeah, well, my job at the time, it was market research and it was based on performance. So the better you perform, the better they'd pay you, basically.
I'm just imagining like how much you could have made. You know, I don't want to make you sad, but you know, if you flipped some of that in crypto, it could have been. we won't talk about that.
Yeah, and then a couple of months after, my parents, they found a house and a 3-bedroom property, and I put some money in there. So that's returning a 3-bed into a 5-bed. And then recently, I got a 3-bedroom property here in Edinburgh. Now I've just got some slides with me that I'm going to share with you.
So you literally achieved all of this in 1 year.
Give or take, yeah.
That is amazing.
Okay. So yeah, dropped out of uni, a little bit who I am. I've worked 7 different jobs, fired from 4. Yeah, to be honest. Now at the moment I live in both Birmingham and Edinburgh. 18th of May, picked up the first keys of the 1-bed in King's Cross. 7th of March, literally last month, picked up the keys for my second one, 3-bed in Edinburgh. So now what is rent to rent, which is what I do? How do I make this bigger? Oh yeah, here it is.
Click on the slideshow, I think.
Slideshow, there we go.
There you go.
So some of you may not know what rent to rent is. So think about it like this. You're renting a property from an agent, landlord, or developer. You're paying them a monthly rent, and then you're renting it out again, and you're keeping the margin. Now you're probably thinking, is this subletting? Is this illegal? The answer is no. As long as you've got the correct contracts in place, then it's all okay. I mean, the same thing as rent to rent, which is what I do, is what all these big hotels do. So they lease properties or rent properties from landlords of big units, and then they pay them a monthly rent every month, and then they rent it out again. The same thing these hotels and B&Bs do is the same thing that we do in rent to rent. Yeah, you don't need to save up for a big deposit to buy a property. It's a low cost entry to actually get started in property, rent to rent. Now, within rent to rent, you've got service accommodation and HMO. HMO is house of multiple occupancy, where you've got 4, 5, 3-bed, and you're renting out each room to a long-term tenant. Service accommodation, on the other hand, is where you've got the whole property and you're renting it out, the whole thing, on a nightly basis. So that's what service accommodation is. So it's a bit like Airbnb, booking.com. Like whenever you're going to a different location anywhere across the world, you're going to book a place to stay for on a nightly basis. Now, some of those amenities that they include, or you should include when running a serviced accommodation businesses, Wi-Fi, housekeeping, which is your cleaners, towels, etc., Netflix, and other bits and bobs. Now, for me, within serviced accommodation, I don't really like to be hosting short-term guests which stay for a couple of nights. I like to host guests which stay for a longer period of time. So a week, 2 weeks, a month, just because that there's less management involved, there's less changeover of guests, and there's less time me actually investing into the business. Now, I got started in this not to have like a job where I work 24, well, a job in the business which I work 24/7. I got in this type of business to actually start gaining cash flow to then actually move on to other strategies. So, so if you have anyone staying in your property which is staying for more than 30 days, it's ideal. You want to get them to have the correct contracts in place. They're not going to be signing a normal ASD contract, your guests that stay in your property. They're going to be signing something called a commercial agreement, which states on there that they're not a tenant, that they're a guest and they have somewhere back to go to. And you getting them to sign that will actually make it easy for you to kick them out, because they're not actually your tenant.
Because if they're a tenant, there's like legal.
Yeah, and tenants have got more rights, and if they were a tenant, it can actually take quite a long time for them to actually be evicted, just because of you've got to give them a couple of months notice, then you've got the backlog of the courts, and then the courts have to bring the bailiffs to kick them out. So it can take up to a year, and in that period of time, you've basically lost 1 year's worth of income, basically. So, so there's a couple of different places where you can actually get properties from. Well, three different types of people. So you've got landlords, which these are the types of people that actually look after the property themselves. Then you've got estate agents, where landlords give the property to estate agents for estate agents to look after. Then you've got developers. So these are actually people that actually build houses to actually sell on or to let out.
From now, okay, I can see from now, the lady is going to be going off to work. You're going to have to be there.
All right.
Come on, man, mute yourself.
So why would actually landlords want to work with people within serviced accommodation, for people like myself and other people in the industry? There's a few tax exemptions that landlords can actually get. So if you're a landlord and you give your property to someone like myself or someone else who rents it out on a holiday let, i.e. serviced accommodation, there's tax exemptions that they can get. Whereas if they was to let it out normally, they wouldn't get those tax exemptions. One of those is their mortgage payments and interest, which can actually be tax deductible if they let it out to someone doing short-term rental. Yeah, so when you're doing this type of business, there's 3 types of people that you're going to need basically permission from.
Sorry, just a quick question from somebody from Instagram. Do you need a HMO license per property, or is it HMO license in general?
So to do HMO, you're going to need a HMO license. Now, this is serviced accommodation where you're renting out the whole place. With HMO, you're renting out each room. Mm-hmm. So with that, you're going to need a license. Right now, as it stands, you don't need a license to do serviced accommodation.
So, yeah, the question is, do you need a HMO license per property? Or is it just a HMO license in general?
To do HMO, you're going to need a HMO license per property.
Per property. All right. Thank you very much.
So when you're doing serviced accommodation, there's 3 people you're going to need permission from to do it. If there's a mortgage on the property, you're going to need to confirm with the owner if they've got the correct mortgage product on there. because they can actually get in trouble and be committing mortgage fraud if they don't have the correct mortgage product. Traditionally, they're going to have a buy-to-let mortgage, which is the landlord has basically bought the property to let out on a long-term basis, which is what the mortgage is based on. Now, if they give it to someone like me, for me to do on a short-term rental, then they need a different mortgage product, or they just need a permission from the mortgage company for it to be allowed. Then obviously you're going to need permission from the landlord or estate agent. And then if it's an apartment block and you're sharing an entrance, you're gonna need to check if the leasehold, the freeholder, the building actually has if there's any restrictions on people doing short-term rental in there. It's normally going to be in the document for, I think it's freehold, if it's an apartment block. But if it's a house, it's just landlord and mortgage company. Yeah, so there's a couple of ways to get properties. Now, the first way is direct to landlord, which is you can find them on Gumtree, OpenRent, Facebook Marketplace. Now, there's a specific script that I'm going to be sharing with you, which is what I say to people on Gumtree and OpenRent. I'm just going to show you. You can all see my screen, yeah?
Yes, sir.
So this was, so this is the 3-bed property, which I got a month ago. The rent's 2,200. So this is my script, which is what I normally say to people on Gumtree and OpenRent. So, hi there, Jane. My name is Zeshan, and I'm one of the directors for a company called Stay to Discover Limited. Great property you have. What we do is we take properties on a long-term basis, 3 to 5 years, and we work with insurance relocation companies where, for example, one of their customers' property was damaged due to water or fire. They would contact us and we would house that family in our properties that we take on. Then we would pay yourselves the agreed monthly rent. And on the odd occasion, we would work with companies who are looking to house their members of staff working in the area. Below is an example of a property we have in London, King's Cross, where we worked with a estate agent called Docklands Estate, which has been fully booked since August 2021 with a family staying in there. And then there's a link. So that's normally my my script, what I say to direct to vendors on Gumtree and OpenRent. And then she says, so that was literally on the 28th at 5:34. And then literally on the 28th at 5:41. So about 7 minutes later, she replied saying if I can come and view tomorrow. So then I came to view it tomorrow, which was at 2:30, and then, yeah. So that's how I actually got that property. Now, it's not going to work 100% of the time, but it does work, that script. Now, the reason why it may not work is because traditionally landlords they're more old school and they'd rather give it to someone staying in the property like a tenant on a long-term basis. And they don't really want to move out of their ways. But if they do, then and if they're open to it, then they'll hear you out. Like, for example, I sent like the same thing to someone else. No thanks. Yes, like literally every day what I would be doing is I'd be waking up and I'd be going on Gumtree, OpenRent and looking at the first properties. Like, for example, so for example, this is what I would do. So Edinburgh City Centre, just this one, for example, click on go, click on most recent. And then what you want to do is click on private. These are basically...
There might be someone coming in called Tiffany. Basically, if you could let anyone in the room, it's like
I don't see anyone, but if anyone just wants to come in, just let me know and I'll go back to the call. Okay. So this is what I would be doing.
You'll have to be, because I can't even see it. Yeah.
Cool.
You're the host.
So this is what I would do. Type in the location that you're based in. Ideally, you'd want to be doing service accommodation in the city you live, just because if you're brand new to it, it's better to do it where you live. Otherwise, if you get a property which is 300-400 miles away, couple of hours away, then you've got a problem on your hand. Like if there's an issue there, then if you don't have the right setup, being as it's your first one, then it's going to cause you a lot of stress and grief. So this is what I would do, type in the location within a mile, and then I would click on private. Now you've got agency as well. This is estate agents, but when you click on private, these are landlords with those properties. And literally what I would do is, so that script that you saw, I would copy and paste it literally to every single one of these, mainly because, I mean, even if the property is not right, I would still message them, because if they accept to it and they're open to the idea, then they might have other properties that they may have not advertised yet, or may be coming onto the market soon, which may be suitable, and the numbers may work for that. So that's what I normally do as to how to get properties on Gumtree, Open Rent, and Facebook Marketplace. Then you've got the next way, which is through estate agents. So a couple of platforms you can use is Rightmove and Zoopla Search. Now, with estate agents, so the same script that you saw me use for landlords on Gumtree and OpenRent, I'd use something similar with estate agents. Now, with estate agents, you'd normally have to call them up. And I'd say, when calling estate agents, you want to speak to the lettings manager. So when you call them up, the first thing you want to say is, can I speak to the lettings manager? Just because if the lettings manager has been in the industry for a longer period of time than the first person who picks up the phone, who might be the receptionist or an estate agent who's quite new in the industry. And they might not know what rent to rent is or serviced accommodation, whereas and also if you're going to be explaining it to the first person that you phone, the receptionist or the newly joined estate agent, they've then got to explain what you said to the manager of the estate agency, and then the manager of that estate agency has got to then explain it to the landlord. So you want to call the estate agent, say, hi there, can I speak to the lettings manager, is what it's called. And this is what I would say, hi there, my name is Zeshan, and I'm one of the directors for a company called Stay to Discover. We're looking to take on a number of properties in your local area. One of the things we do is we work with insurance relocation companies, and we house their clients in our properties on a short or long-term basis. And we work with different clienteles like estate agencies. And on the odd occasion, we would, when we have an empty calendar, we would actually put it on platforms like Airbnb and Booking.com.
Sorry, we've just got a comment from Max. Would it not be better to use the term commercial lets rather than rent to rent? Zeshan?
Yeah, is it possible I can just speak on this? Because sure. Wouldn't they get a bit, what's that word, uppity or jippity if you use the term rent to rent instead of commercial lets to make it sound more professional? Or
to be honest,
or do you feel it doesn't really make a difference?
It won't really make a difference, but I've always used, I mean, I don't use rent, I don't even say anything about rent to rent when I call them. So this is what I would say when I call them. Hi there, can I speak to the lettings manager? And then most of the time they're going to be saying, why, or can you tell me? Then what you want to tell them is, we're looking to take on a number of projects in your local area, and it's best we speak to them. And then they'll put you through to the lettings manager. Then with the lettings manager, what you want to tell them is, hi there, my name is so-and-so, and I'm one of the directors for a company called blah, blah, blah. We're looking to take on a number of properties in your local area. Now, you want to say that because then the lettings manager will sort of take you more seriously, and when you say you're wanting to take on a number of properties, even though in your head you're not going to take on a number of properties because you might not be able to, but from their point of view, when you say those words to them, they'll take you as more credible and more of a big player. So when you say that to them, yeah, that's what they think. And then you'll tell them what you do. We work with different clienteles. We take your property on a long-term lease, which is what I say, long-term lease or long-term contract of 3 to 5 years. And we pay your rent every month. And these are the types of clienteles we use. Do you have any suitable?
Oh, do you use the term "will pay your rent" or "guarantee your rent" every month?
I mean, you can use both. It won't really make much of a difference, to be honest with you. Guarantee your rent, release your property on a long-term basis, I think would be better to use. Just telling them we'll take your property on a long-term lease of a couple of years and house these types of clients. So that's how I would normally do it with estate agents through Rightmove. Then you've got Zoopla search. So Zoopla is similar to Rightmove, but they've got something on there called Zoopla search.
Oof, we've got 27 people in. This is amazing. For some, appreciate it, everyone.
So you want to go on to Zoopla and then click on to rent and then just type in a location. So let's just type in Birmingham. Property, minimum bedrooms, 2+, search. And then what you want to do is you want to scroll down to the bottom to this part. Now, what do we have here? Now you can actually send a message to literally 26 estate agencies in the Birmingham city centre area. So this is how I actually got my rent-to-rent in London, King's Cross. I put in my name, email address, phone number, and then in the message, I put in something along the lines of, hi there, we are looking to take on a number of properties for our serviced accommodation business. This is an example of a property. Okay, I didn't say that because either we're looking to take a number of properties for our service accommodation business. We house insurance relocation clients and take out a lease for a few years. Do you have any properties which are suitable? Then what you want to do is you want to click on select all and then send message. And then they'll reply to you. If any of them see that this email or message that you send them, they'll actually get back in touch with you via email. So that's how I actually got my one in London, King's Cross. So a bit of numbers for the one in London, King's Cross, and to show you a little bit of it.
Those that don't know who are listening to this on the replay, King's Cross is an extremely hard area to get property, and that's central London. If those that are familiar with London Euston, it's like 10-minute walk from there. But yeah, central.
So this is what the property looks like in London King's Cross. The only thing that we did in the property was just put wallpaper on, just to give it a bit more color, put those paintings in there, put a bed throw in there, fake plants, put the wallpaper there, and more or less the furniture came with it, just a bit of decor that we put in there. I'm going to see if I've actually got some of the numbers. So this is what I actually, so I'm going to share with you a bit about what it cost me for the one in London, King's Cross, just for the furnishings. So the rent on that one in London, King's Cross, is 1,575 every month. Deposit is also 1,575.
Wait, can you just zoom in on these numbers? Because this is amazing. Anyone listening? Well, if you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple Music in the future, please do catch the replay on youtube.com/Blockchain Sensei.
So I don't think it's not letting me zoom in.
Oh, you can't zoom in?
No. So before I talk to you about some of the stuff I purchased, now the rent was 1,575, deposit 1,575. Now you can actually, with some estate agencies and some landlords, you can actually get a rent-free period. So all that means is they give you maybe a month or a couple of weeks, and then you start paying your rent. And then also with a deposit, sometimes they won't charge you a deposit, but 9 times out of 10 they will. An alternative to actually paying a deposit is actually giving them an option to use a deposit insurance. 1 minute, I'll just get the correct thing up. Oh yeah, it's called a deposit replacement insurance. So instead of you paying the maximum that landlords can charge is, I believe, 5 or 6 weeks deposit in England, but in Scotland, they can charge up to 2 months. It's called a deposit replacement insurance. So instead of you paying that deposit, you pay 1 week's worth of deposit, which is basically an insurance for you and the landlord, just in case there's any damages or anything that needs fixing. You'll just go to them and then they will sort that out for you. And then in terms of
sorry, 1 second. Justin, my homie, said if you do command shift full stop. Wait, if you command up arrow keys full stop to zoom in, just because I know the YouTube people will get a better experience.
Let me just copy that and then
don't highlight it. Oh, okay. We're doing Google Docs. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I'll just paste it in
I'm just imagining like there's gonna be people watching this on a big screen in the
okay.
Yeah.
So
way better.
what I put in there was I'm minute sensor, which is basically a sound monitor. So let me just show you. So it detects the level of noise in the property and alerts you if there's any potential parties. So let me just go to sensor data. Okay, so yesterday, because I was working night shift, I just so happened to log into my minute account and noticed that they actually went above the threshold. So they were actually being quite loud in the property. And I only knew that because there was a sensor there. It basically detects the level of noise and alerts you if there's any high level of noises, i.e. potential parties or loud music being played, which they were doing at like about between 11 and 1:30. I don't know why people play loud music in the middle of the night when they've got neighbors and stuff. So I sent her a message and just to turn it down, otherwise we'll have to remove you. And just by being direct with guests and things like that, she was like, oh, I'm so sorry, we'll turn it down. And then boom, it went quiet literally after that. So that's what you want to get. It's a minute sensor. Then you want to get something called a Ring doorbell. So a Ring doorbell, what this is, for some of you that don't know, is it's basically like as an alternative to having a camera in your property is you've got a Ring doorbell. So it's a video doorbell at the front of your door. And whenever there's movement, it basically alerts you and it records it. So it shows you who goes in the property and who leaves the property. So combined with a minute sensor and a Ring doorbell, you'll know if there's a lot of people in the property and if there's a party. So this is a way for you to sort of know that from being home without actually having to physically check there. And then for me, I put in a PlayStation 5 and FIFA 2021 in there. You don't have to put this in there, but me personally, I did, just because I thought about it from a guest point of view. If someone booking a property has two options and they're both the same quality, but one has a PlayStation 4 and the other one doesn't, they're more likely to book you. So that's the only reason I put that in there. Then you've got the fire blanket. So when guests stay in your property, there's health and safety is essentially your responsibility, being as you're the host. So you want to put a fire blanket in there, first aid kit, smoke alarm, carbon monoxide alarm. And then what we've got here is key nest. So key nest is, yeah.
Sorry, it's not coming from Justin. Ring doorbell also requires subscription after 30 days.
Yeah, so Ring doorbell, so you've got the 89 quid just for the Ring doorbell camera, and then after 30 days, for you to actually keep the recordings, I think is about 25 or 30 quid for a whole year.
Nice.
Then you've got Keynest, which is for 1 year plan, it's 215 quid. So what Keynest is, they basically have relationships with stores all across the world, in fact, and it's a place where instead of you having to physically be at the property to give the key to your guest can actually pick up the keys from a store which is close by to the property and drop it off to that store without you actually having to be in there. So you basically give the guest a code and tell them this is where you pick up the key from and this is a code you're going to use. And then when they pick up the key, you get an email notification. When they drop off the key, you get an email notification. Then you've got ICO data protection. So whenever you're dealing with people's personal information, you're going to need ICO data protection, just in case you have any data protection breaches. Then the wallpaper that you guys saw. So this one in the background, the blue one, it cost me 200, no, where is it gone? About 100 quid. Then you've got the linen and the rug. So the rug that you see, I don't think if you can see it properly.
Sorry, could you just meet agents and family in the participants? I'm rustling right now.
Oh, agent. Oh,
no. Can you have to do it because you're the host?
No, he's muted.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. So
yeah, sorry about that, Zeshan. Sorry, mate.
No worries. So the rug that you've got here, and then the linen. So which the linen includes all of the towels, the bed throws, etc. Cost about 251 quid. Then you've got the 3 dark blue lampshades, 43 quid. Bathroom plant, 17 quid. So this is a drill with like different bits, so you can drill into the wall to hang up certain items, 47 quid. So LED TV light, 15 quid. Now, you don't really want to be putting sugar and coffee or any consumable items in the property, just in case if they consume what you put in the property, then you're opening up yourself to liabilities. So I only put it into the property, the first one, but I found out later that that actually is something that can happen where guests decide they want some money and they'll sue you just because they've consumed your sugar or your coffee that you've got in your property. That's
really important because we're in sue culture right now. So that's a really good point. Just no food basically, so they can't blame you.
Yeah. Kitchen sink organizer, about 18 quid. Drawer cutlery organizer, 16. Plates and cutlery holder, 7 quid. So body and shower gel. So this is actually, so if you guys see these little things, these little tubes of shower gel, so that's what that is. Cleaning items. So this is all your sprays, your bleaches, your things for the bathroom to clean, the kitchen, 75 quid. Then I also got a laser liner. So when you're putting wallpaper on the wall, you want to get a laser line just to keep your wallpaper in line. It'll help you. Then obviously I put Netflix in there. So then you've got insurance for the property. So you're going to need public liability and contents insurance. So public liability is basically if a guest is in your property and they hurt themselves due to whatever reason, then you've got the insurance in place to protect you. Then you've got contents insurance. So if there's any damages to the things that you've purchased to place into the property that's been a result of your guest staying in there, then you can claim for that. Yeah, so then I put a photo shoot and video of the apartment, 280 quid. TV license.
Sorry, can you mute family, please? I'm hearing like a little bit of background noise. I don't know if it's
Yep, that's done.
Thank you.
So apartment shoot and video, 280 quid. And then, so this is to do with my website, 114 quid for 2 years hosting there with hosting. So all in all about 3 grand, plus 1,575 for the first month's rent, plus 1,575 for deposit as well. So those are the numbers for the one in London. Let me just get back to you. And then you've got developers, which actually, these are people that actually build houses. So I've not actually managed to have success at this just yet. But the way you get in touch with developers and is a similar sort of way with estate agencies. So you go onto the council website and you just look at the planning portal and look at where planning permission has been granted for development of houses or apartments. And then you contact them directly, or if you're driving around in the city centre or just in the local area, whenever there's a development going on, 9 times out of 10, they'll normally have the company name on like boards that they've got around the place that they're developing. So you can contact them directly there. And similar sort of way how you're gonna speak to them is with estate agents and landlords. You're gonna tell them similar sort of script of we take on properties for a few years, 3 to 5 years, and we house clients from different things such as people staying in the area for holiday, working in the area, people's houses who've been damaged, they contact us and we house them for that period of time. And also you can just drive around the city centre, see what's happening in there. Yeah. And then also another thing is networking. So when you're new into property, you want to be going to networking events. So these are networking events where you've got other people who are already doing what you're doing. Basically at these events, networking. So a couple of networking events is PIN, Properties Investors Network. Then you've got Samuel Leeds. You can also go onto Eventbrite, see the local property events happening in your local area. And then, so the best one that I've been to is the property event. It's in London. It's hosted by 2 guys who are developers. Well, within the strategy of doing buy, refurbish, refinance. But in terms of the event that they've got going on, they provide a lot of value and they have different guest speakers from service accommodation builders, and they give you a lot of networking to do with other people in the room. Now,
sorry, just to quickly interrupt for the socials. Could everyone here drop their Instagram, please? As I'm gonna tag everyone in a post. Thank you so much.
So I've shown you the script. Due diligence. We'll do due diligence at the end. So there's a few different contracts that you're going to use that you're going to be signing with either estate agents, developers, or landlords. Now, if you're going directly to a landlord, it's best to use a management agreement. When you're going through an estate agent, 9 times out of 10, they're gonna make you sign a company let agreement. All it is basically your limited company. Like for me, which is Stay to Discover, is basically the tenant in the property, and then my company lets it out to other people via Airbnb, Booking.com, and quite a few different platforms. Now, there's a couple of different clients. Who's your ideal customer? You've got tourists, contractors, and relocations. Now, if you're in you don't really want to rely on just tourists, because for those of you that saw what happened back in 2020, the tourist market basically collapsed just because there was no traveling going on. So you also want to be targeting contractors. So these are people who are actually working in that local area, i.e. on construction sites, people relocating to the area, etc. These are also a couple of different platforms where you can list your property. So you've got Airbnb, Booking.com, TripAdvisor. Then you've got your own website. Now, if you're like me and you don't like paying fees on Airbnb and Booking.com, get your own website, because that way you'll get that direct booking. Google My Business, Gumtree, OpenRent, Zoopla, Rightmove. So then you've also got Comfy Workers and Pillow Partners. So these are 2 other platforms. So if you're a big firm and you're looking for your staff to stay in a particular area, then these companies will actually contact Comfy Workers and Pillow Partners. And what they will do is they will give them a list of criteria of what we need for our staff to stay in the area. For example, they might say, we need a 2-bed, we need a property which is going to host 5 people from this period of time to this period of time. What do you have available? Then these platforms will contact you once you're listed on there, and then they will tell you that this is the request that has come through, and what we want to do is it possible that you can host them? And if it's possible you can host them, then these platforms, they take a 10% fee. So that's that. You've also got what is it called? Sit UE. I think it's. So you've got a few insurance relocation companies. One of them is called Tool. Another one is called Sin Energy. Another one is called Alternative Accommodation Agency. So whenever people's properties are burnt down, these are basically insurance relocation companies where those customers will contact those insurance relocation companies, and then they will contact you for you to house those clients in your properties. Julia, let me just disable that. So we've gone over legal. So you've got fire safety, fire alarm, carbon monoxide. You also want to get a fire escape plan. So if you're in a building, like an apartment, 9 times out of 10, they will already have a fire escape plan in there. So for example, the one that I did in both London and Edinburgh, what I did is I got the fire escape plan, took it to the photocopier, got it laminated, and put that in the property. Just because if it ever does happen and there is a fire, then your guests do know what the fire escape plan is, and it just protects you as a host from any liability and any claims. Now, here's an important part. Before you allow anyone to stay in your property, you want to get them to send over ID, so i.e. driving license or passport. Get them to sign your booking terms and conditions. Even if they come through a platform like Airbnb or booking.com, get them to sign your own booking terms and conditions. If they are booking on a platform such as booking.com, then you want to ask them to you want them to tell you what the last 4 digits of the long card number is, just to see if it matches what booking.com has given you. Basically, by taking all of these measures, it protects you from fraud. So what some people do is they steal a credit card and they actually book your property, and they stay in your property. Then the person's whose original card it was, they find out that the card's been used. They call their bank and say it's fraud. And then, so basically you've hosted someone which has stayed in your property for free, plus that money that they've paid, it's being refunded by the person who's it's been refunded to the person whose fraud was reported to. Then you've got Ring Doorbell and Minute. So that's that. So these are generally the sort of setup costs that you've got involved. 1 month's rent. You can actually get a rent-free period. And then you've got deposits, normally up to 5 weeks deposit in England, up to 2 months in Scotland.
That's what this nigga that's messaging me needs to go into this. Elliot just sent me just to jump in. I think this is actually blogging, which is random.
Thank you.
And then furnishing. If it's already furnished, the property, then you might want to put your own touch into it, like give it a bit of color. But generally speaking, it's about 3 to 5 grand. Obviously, the larger the property is, the more it's going to cost to furnish the property. Now, in terms of actually paying for this, there are a few different ways to do it. Of course, if you've got your own money, then brilliant. Now, if you've not got any money, then you can either use other people's money, so i.e. investors, or what I did to finance the one in both London and Edinburgh is I used something called a balance transfer credit card. Now, for those of you that don't know what a balance transfer credit card is, it's basically a credit card at 0% interest over, say, like 18 to 24 months period. Now, how it basically works is you use a credit card to actually get this, you're going to need 2 credit cards. So you're going to need a normal credit card, and then you're going to need a balance transfer credit card. Now, obviously, with a normal credit card is you've got to pay the balance off after 30 days. Otherwise, they start charging you interest. So you want to use the normal credit card to actually. Oh, by the way, this is not my advice. This is just what I used to actually get this.
None of this is advice, as we said at the start. There's not a single piece of advice in this entire piece of content.
Yeah, this is just my experience and what I actually did to actually get started in property. So you're going to need 2 credit cards. The first one, which is a normal one, and the second one, which is a balance transfer credit card. Now, the normal credit card you're going to use to purchase items such as the items you need, like bedding, TVs, toiletries, and then you're going to use that. Then you've got that, which you've spent the money. Then you've got the balance transfer credit card. You're going to use the balance transfer credit card to transfer the balance from your normal credit card to your balance transfer credit card. Now the loan is, or i.e. loan is basically with your balance transfer credit card. And now you've got a long period of time, i.e. 18 to 24 months, to pay that off at 0% interest. So the profits that I generate from my one in London, I'm basically using to pay off the balance transfer credit card. Now, you'll only get, well, if you've got a good credit score, then you're going to get the balance transfer credit card. It's not really going to work if you've got a bad credit score. I mean, lenders won't really lend you any money if you've got history of not paying your bills or defaulting on any past debts that you've got.
Pay your bills, guys. Avoid debt, unless it's calculated.
Yeah. And then obviously you've got VAT. So once you start doing revenues of 85,000 and above, you've got the standard rate, and then you've got a flat rate scheme, which is another rate for if you do 150,000 and above. Now, in terms of doing due diligence on properties, D68. So, oh, there's one more thing in London. London's the only place where they've got regulation. You've got the 90-day rules allowance. So what this means is if you do Airbnb in London, I think it's central London, they've got a map on the council website. So if you do Airbnb for 90 days or more within a calendar year, then you're going to need to get a licensing for it. But the way to actually get around it is, so basically Airbnb is the only platform that checks this. Say again?
I think that was just D.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the way to actually get around the 90-day allowance is, so the way they calculate your 90-day allowance is if someone stays in your property for 30 days or less, that 30 days is counted towards your allowance for the whole year of 90 days, which is maximum, if that makes sense. Now, if you have a guest that stays for more than 30 days, then that 90-day allowance is not used, basically. So that's the way how you get around it. Plus, if you have a long-term guest staying in the property, is another way to get around it. But I mean, 9 times out of 10, as long as you've got a good process in place and you don't have bad guests in there that do parties or make a lot of noise, then you're not really going to bring a lot of attention to yourself. But if you do get a property and you don't manage to get long-term clients in there, which I highly doubt you won't. Well, you should get long-term clients because London is pretty hot for property at the moment. I mean, everybody wants a property and
London will be hot.
Yeah.
Property forever and never decrease in demand.
And the properties get snapped up pretty quickly. You've got fire. And then I think the last thing I'm going to go through is how to actually do your due diligence on a property to actually see if it will work. So let me just bring up some documents on board. So that's that. By the way, has anyone got any questions? Just put it in the chat and then I'll answer it while I get this up.
Got 24 people in this room. One person must have a question. Okay. Let's not.
Yeah, I've got a question. How's it going, Zeshan?
How you doing? You okay?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks, brother. Do you do this full time, or do you balance it with your job?
So at the moment, I've basically got 2 jobs now, and then I do this on the side. So the one in London, because last year so I got the keys in May, and then in August I got a 12-month booking through OpenRent, which is a direct booking. So I got them to send over their ID and signed booking terms and conditions. And then I gave them the keys, and then they've been paying their monthly booking fee for the last 12 months. They're a doctor working in the local hospital. So for the one in London, it's completely hands off until August.
Oh, wow.
Me. Yeah. Now I got that long-term booking just because I invested in my branding and marketing. Now, just because you get started in a Airbnb, this type of business model, you want to be reinvesting. You want to be invested back into the business or your branding and marketing to attract.
Wait. By branding and marketing, what do you mean?
So, let me show you. Let me show you instead of telling you.
Yeah, of course. Everyone go follow at Zeshan266 on IG.
So,
He's super active, and you can see all these real estate property stuff there.
So what I mean by branded and marketing is, if you go,
you're not sharing your screen, by the way.
Oh, am I not?
Nope.
So if you go onto a platform like, just say for example, Airbnb, not a single one of them has literally branded any of their photos. So they advertise their property as them as an individual 9 times out of 10. They don't advertise their property as them as a business, as them as a brand. So what I mean by branding and marketing is you want to build yourself, you want to create a brand and start marketing yourself. So we actually paid someone to help us do that. So for us, it won't say hosted by Zeshan, it'll be say hosted by Stay to Discover. Just because, and then in our photos, it won't be blank. We'll have our logo in each of the photos, just because the more people that see your brand, the more likely they are to actually Google what they see onto Google. And then that way they'll find you on Google. And then that way you'll get some direct bookings. So I'll just show you some. So in terms of preview list. So in terms of branding, this is what I mean. So with our photos, you can see we've got our branding there, etc. And then obviously we're on Google My Business. So if someone searches that brand, Stay to Discover Edinburgh, Royal Mile, then we should come up, which is here. Stay to Discover Service Apartments, Royal Mile, which is here. And then that's the phone number they ring, which will then let them call me, which will then be a direct booking. So that's what I mean by direct bookings. Because with a platform like Airbnb, they can charge up to 16%, 15, 16%, same as booking.com and the other platforms. So if you get a direct booking, that fee which you would have paid to those platforms, you now get to keep. So this is generally how I do a due diligence on a property. So so you've got, how to find it? So generally you've got rent, council tax, gas and electric, water, broadband, TV license, and insurance, which will be your monthly outgoings. So for example, this one that I recently acquired in Edinburgh, so the monthly rent is 2,200. Now the council tax, I may not pay this just because I may get onto business rates. It's still in the process. So if I get onto business rates, then I won't pay anything for business rates. So I mean, if I didn't get it, then it'd be around 150 quid. So that one in Edinburgh is electric only. Who is that? Oh, so the one in Edinburgh is electric only. So in Scotland, the way how council tax works is they include water in your council tax. And then broadband for that is 50 quid. I don't need to pay TV license just because I haven't got any channels in there. The only thing I've got is Netflix in there.
Don't pay that shit in general.
Say again? Yeah. So that's my monthly outgoings for the one in Edinburgh. Now, there's a couple of ways how I do my due diligence. So you go onto platforms like, you can do it on booking.com and also Airbnb. So you want to type in that postcode where your property is in. And then now it's very important you don't select a weekend. You want to select midweek dates, so Tuesday to Thursday, just because from a Tuesday to Thursday, it's going to be cheaper to book as opposed to if you're on looking at a weekend. And you don't want to make the numbers work. You want to you want the numbers to show for themselves as to whether the property will work or not. So that one in Edinburgh, you can house up to 8 people, and it's got 3 rooms. So you click on search, and then once you do that, you want to go down here, and you want to click on apartments, or if it's a house, because you want to be comparing like for like whatever you get. Then what you want to look at is you want to look at the amount of reviews that host has got on and the amount that they're charging. The higher the amount of reviews that they get will generally be an indication to you that they're an experienced host, and their pricing will be right, because when you've been operating in a market, you'll sort of know what the maximum is that you can charge. So with this person, they've got 4 reviews and they're charging £781 over 2 nights. With the ones that have got thousands of reviews, you don't want to look at them, because 9 times out of 10 there'll be hotels, apart hotels, and also some of them charge ridiculous amounts. Like this one over 2 days at 1,200 quid. So this one's charging £900 over 2 days, but they've got no reviews. This one 1,500 over, but they've got 54 reviews. This one £2,000, 68 reviews, 6 reviews, 57, 4 reviews, 789, 379 reviews, and they've got 51 reviews. 353, 16 reviews. Now, when looking at all of these are the 2 which will be the best to do your due diligence on. Now, you don't base your due diligence just on these 2. You'll do some more due diligence after this. So what you want to do is they're charging 379 over 2 days. So if you do 379 divided by 2, that's £189 per day that they're charging. So if you put in there £189, so at 70% occupancy, which is basically if that property is booked for 21 days out of a whole month, then you're going to be revenuing £4,000. If the property is booked for 26 days out of a whole month, then you're going to be revenuing just under £5,000. Then you've also got to take into consideration cleaning. So whenever you're taking on a property, there's 2 people that you want to hire. One is a cleaner, or you can clean the property yourself, and the other one is a handyman. Just in case anything breaks down, you can send them to the property to fix whatever issue there is. And if you're Then you've got booking.com. So if this came through booking.com, and this was for a whole month, then 612 quid at 70% occupancy, at 85% occupancy, that's what booking.com would charge. And that's the sort of profit you would be left with. After all expenses and all bills are paid off, that's at 70% occupancy. At 85 occupancy, it's 1,200 quid. So that's at £189 per night. Now, ideally, you want to, I mean, everybody is different, but you don't really want to be taking on properties which will make you less than £500 a month, just because, like for me personally, it just won't be worth your time. Then what you would do is you'd also go onto a platform like Airbnb, and you would do the same thing. So Tuesday to Thursday, add the guest. So, so put 6 there. Type of place, entire place. And bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom. So these guys are charging £384 per night. Now, just because people charge that amount doesn't mean they're necessarily going to be getting that every month. So what you want to be doing is you want to look at their calendar. So by looking at their calendar, it will give you an indication basically out of that calendar how many of those days are booked. So you can see in the month of April, they've only got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days which are available. Then in May, they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 11, 12 days empty. So these guys are pretty full up, and they're charging about 319 quid a night. So, and then also you can see they haven't got any reviews yet, but at that listing. Then this property, which are charging £407 a night. You want to go down to the calendar. So you can see from this month in April, they got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 days available. And then in May, they've got about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days which are booked. So you'll basically doing this type of stuff as your due diligence will give you a good indication as to the prices that you can charge your guest. So going back to this now, you know for a fact you can easily get £189 a night, just because these other hosts are charging £384 a night, £407 a night. Specifically this one, £384 a night, £384 a night. You can tell like their calendar is pretty good and pretty filled up. That's generally how you would do your due diligence. Let's just have a look at this one, which is 300 quid a night. Yeah, the calendar is pretty open. I'm not doing that well. Let's look at this one, last one. Yeah, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 days empty in the month of April. So they're on about 70% occupancy so far. And they're charging £375 a night. So if they're charging £375 a night and they're at 70% occupancy, they're making about just under £4,000 in profit, as you can see. So that's generally how I do my due diligence. I'm just going to go through the comments just to see if anyone's got any questions.
We've got a few, but I didn't want to kill your flow.
So how do you get insurance, house insurance clients? So there's a couple of platforms. One is called Synergy. The other one is called Apartool. The other one is called Situi. Another one is called Alternative Accommodation Agency. So what you want to do is you want to call them up, just see if they have any demand in that area, and then if they do have demand, what they'll do is they'll call you. Sorry, they'll take your details, and they'll keep it on file. And if any inquiries come through, then they will contact you to see if you can host those guests. Zeshan, any biryani included? No food. Zeshan, how did you find? What's the net profit from the one in London? So the one in London, these are the sort of numbers. So the one in London, the rent is 1,575. Council tax is 120. Gas and electricity, it is £70 at the moment, but it's more than likely going to double just because we've got the price hikes that have come into place in this month. Then you've got broadband. So on that one is 30. TV license is 13 quid. The insurance was 250 quid. I paid it in full. So these are my basically expenses for the one in London, about 1,800 quid. Now, I put it on open rent as a long-term let available for 2,375 every month, which that 12-month guest took. So 2,375 take away 1,808 is basically about £567 profit of the one in London. Now, remember, the way I financed it was using their balance transfer credit card. And basically the profits I get, I used to pay off that balance transfer credit card. How do you manage the clean after the guests have left after that? Yeah, so generally when people book on your platforms like Airbnb, booking.com or whatever, in addition to the nightly rate that they charge, you're gonna add a cleaning fee. So if it's a one bed, I know the one bed when it's about 50 to 60 quid. But the 3 bed I've got, we charge about 100 quid cleaning fee. We normally pay our cleaners 15 quid an hour or 40 quid or 50 quid to do the whole job, depending. And when cleaners come, we normally text them. They normally have their own set of keys. If they're a long-term cleaner, they have their own set of keys, and we tell them when to go to the property. We know when they come to the property because we've got the Ring doorbell. So, and then they come into the property. We know when they leave the property because with the Ring doorbell, whenever motion is detected, they leave the property. And then once they do the cleaner, they send us photos just for proof that they've done what we've paid them to do. And just in case if any guests come after people have cleaned your cleaners have cleaned the property, you'll know that your cleaners have done the job that you paid them to, and you'll know if the guests are lying saying this is dirty, that is dirty. Zeshan, you should be sticking some of these bad boys in your rent-to-rent essays if you can. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I
got 2 more of these for my mate. Couldn't find spaces for them, so I was like, yeah, please give them here. I'll take them.
Yeah, so guys, Max actually mines H&T helium, and he's looking to do it on a bigger scale. So that's what he's referring to.
You can literally just stick it in like the corner of the property without telling the landlord, and also earn crypto whilst you're earning rental income as well.
Yeah.
This is the thing. That's why we do it, bro. Because as Ian Dunlap, the master investor, says, all markets are tied together. Real estate, stocks, gold, crypto. Just to drop some kind of macroeconomic knowledge. This is literally why the rich get richer, because they being the central government, the banks print more money. They don't print, they actually just add digital numbers to the screen. Money doesn't stay in money, money goes in assets. Real estate is the biggest market, $300 trillion market. Stock market is the second biggest market, 100 trillion. Commodities is the third biggest market. That's gold, silver, oil, all natural resources, 50 trillion in there, 13 trillion of which is in gold, 11 of which is in oil, 2 in crypto. And that's the flow of money, basically. What is that thing that you said you put in the corner of the property to mine crypto? HNT, right? Where you got HNT miner?
Bobcat 300. They've just literally introduced the Bobcat 500, which is the 5G miner. But yeah, so I had 3 originally, which I bought direct from Bobcat. But my friend, who I told Zeshan about, I'm seeing him tomorrow actually. He mines HNT on a ridiculous scale, and he's doing it in the UK, and he's also going to be doing it back home in Pakistan. He had 2 Bobcat miners he had no space for, and he said, yeah, like, you can have them, you're a good mate. So I was like, oh, please, thank you so much. Just took them. So now I've got to find a place for them. It's a Bobcat 300, yeah.
And how much is that?
Well, the prices have gone up now because they're so popular. I bought mine last year. I paid $429. Now that, if you buy it direct from the manufacturer, it's probably $530 now. But if you go on eBay or any reseller markets, you'll be paying 4 figures easy just to get hold of one, because the orders are backlogged and the waiting list is horrendous. Like, I ordered mine back in January, February, March, June of last year. I didn't get them until January of this year because of the supply chain issue.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
So I feel like we should wrap this up simply because it is 10:30 on a Sunday. Zeshan has been fasting all day. We both got a pretty issue. But has anyone got a dying question? Let's take one more.
I had one actually. It's more about securing essays in London and any kind of area in the UK actually. It's more about Article 4. I don't know how that plays a part in service accommodations. This is kind of the hurdle I'm kind of getting into when I'm picking up or reaching out to landlords and they're based in like central locations.
Article 4 normally refers to HMOs.
Yeah.
So if you're renting out the whole property, then you won't need a HMO license, if that makes sense. But if you're going to be renting out each specific room, if it's in Article 4, then you're going to need a license. And normally how you can get that, what that license requirement is, if you go on that, to every council will be different.
Yeah.
So Birmingham, Liverpool, the different London councils, so they've got a licensing section on the council website where you can actually see what the requirements are for that license and what you need, how big the rooms need to be, what health and safety you need in order to get that license, basically.
From what I've understood and everything like that from other communities that I've been reaching out to about this actually, is that the Article 4 and licensing are actually 2 separate entities, if you will. Now, if you have a property that is actually in Article 4, regardless if you have a license or not, you ain't getting permission to convert that property into a HMO or a service accommodation based on what the council has to do.
You can do service accommodation because, remember, HMO only refers to, if you're renting out, I believe if it's
tenants,
three or more people in, if you're renting out each room on a long-term let, you're going to need a HMO license.
Yeah.
But if you've got like a 3 or 4 or 5 bedroom house and you don't rent out each room, but you rent out the whole place on a nightly basis, then you're not going to need a license.
So the Article 4 basically applies to the change of use of the property. So if you got a typical buy-to-let mortgage or buy-to-let, you've got a property that's a C3, which is basically residential, people living in the property. In order for you to have it as a HMO, yes, you'll need to change it to a C4, which is going to be that. But then if you want to change it to a service accommodation, you will actually need to change that to a C1. Now, without actual proper planning permission, the council basically going to say no.
Okay.
I don't know if you've come across that when you're searching for your service accommodations, or if you're only approaching agents with service accommodation in mind.
Okay, so do you remember how I said in London to do service accommodation, you're going to need licensing if you and then you've got like a 90-day allowance?
Yeah.
Now, the way how you get around it is number one, the way how you get around that hurdle is so Airbnb is basically the only platform that checks. None of the other platforms check as far as I know. So normally what Airbnb will say is, do you have permission? You will either click yes or no. If you click yes, they'll process it, no evidence required. If you click no, then they'll only give you 90 days for one calendar year to promote that listing. Now, you've got 90 days allowance in one calendar year. Now, what Airbnb counts towards that allowance is if let's just say if you get a booking which is less than 30 days, then however long that is, for example, 3 days, 3 weeks, that's counted towards your 90-day allowance. But if you get a booking which is more than 30 days, it's not counted towards your 90-day allowance just because they class it as a long-term booking rather than a short-term booking, if that makes sense. So that's the way how people generally get around it. Plus, people just do it, if I'm being honest.
That's what I was thinking, because I'm searching everywhere, and everyone's just getting these service accommodations from everywhere. I'm like, well, these rules are preventing me. How are these people doing it? I'm like, okay. Well, I don't want to, start my business off breaking rules or anything. So I wanted to get some insider knowledge on that one.
So, I mean, now the only reason why, if you do get caught doing it, then, and if you do use your 90-day allowance and you don't get that more than 30-day bookings, the only way that the council is going to know is if your neighbors complain. Now, your neighbors are only going to complain if you've got bad guests in there, if you don't do your proper due diligence, if you don't have a sound monitor, if you don't have a ring doorbell, if you don't take ID off them. Like for example, in both our properties in London and Edinburgh, we don't accept bookings for less than 2 days. We accept bookings for a minimum of 7 days. Now, you're not really going to be a bad guest if you're going to stay in a property for 7 days because you've paid some good money and a deposit, and we've got your ID as well. So that's generally how you can get around it.
Okay, that works.
So if we get into rent-to-rent SA business, what type of company should we set? Limited company. So you go on Companies House, create a limited company. It's about 13 quid. That's it. Has anyone got any more questions? We'll do one last one.
God, he's feeling generous. Go on, first person to ask it.
Yeah, I got a question.
Go on, Matthew.
If you had more capital or more like cash available, would you do anything different?
How much cash are we talking?
Considerable amount.
So if you've got, it all depends on your situation. Like if you're gonna get into property, you're either gonna get into property to either make cash flow or you're gonna get into property for capital appreciation. Now, the strategies which can give you a high cash flow is service accommodation, HMO, rent-to-rent HMO, rent-to-rent service accommodation, where you rent a property and rent it out either as a whole property or each specific room. Now, if you've got a substantial amount of cash, then like if it was me, I would be buying properties which are run down and then remortgage them. So refinancing them to get all your money out and then into the next project. But it also comes back to how much time you actually have as an individual. Like, do you actually want to be running a service accommodation business, or do you want to purchase a property and have a long-term tenant in there and don't need to worry about it for quite a long time? It just depends on you and your circumstances. But if it was me, that's what I would do.
Okay, thank you.
Another thing that I forgot to mention was there's Facebook groups out there which are called service accommodation. If you just join them, ask questions, people are generally helpful and they'll answer any questions that you have. There's also property Facebook groups that I'd recommend you guys joining as well. Just because if you're going to be getting into an industry and you're quite new, then it's best to surround yourself with people who are already in that industry doing what you want to do and who already have that experience. And the more people you have in your network, the easier it becomes, i.e. because you might need something which another host has. For example, you might need a cleaner because your cleaner's off sick. And because you've got that connection or that person in your network, you can reach out to them, say, hey, can your cleaner come into my property and clean the property, or can your handyman come over? Basically, yeah.
Zeshan, what's that sound system that you purchased?
It's called Minute.
Minute. Okay, thank you.
MINUT.
Okay, I'm going to make the executive decision to cut this because we don't want to give away too much. I'm sure Zeshan's going to do another one. Thank you everyone so much for attending this. It's amazing that we started off with what, 27, 29. We've still got 22 people in here. It is nearly 11 p.m. on a Sunday night. Zeshan and myself going to go pray. If you guys enjoyed this, please do first and foremost follow Zeshan266 on IG. All Instagram shares appreciated. I will be doing a post and tagging everyone who did write their IG in. About 14, 15 people did. If you haven't, feel free to drop it in. The replay of this will be on youtube.com/Blockchain Sensei. Please do like, subscribe, share, and yeah, let's see if Zeshan will be so kind to do another one of these.
One more thing, Ninja.
Yeah.
If anyone, I forgot to mention this earlier.
Yeah.
So for those of you watching on the replay and watching this now, I'm actually raising money for charity. So my target's to raise $5,000. I'm on 2,700 so far. So if any of you donate, then we can get on a call one-on-one and I'll help you whatever you need within service accommodation. If you needed any of the contracts, so it's on my page, personal page, Zeshan266.
I will happily include the Just Giving link.
Yeah, and then that link is right there.
Yeah.
So yeah, love this session. Thank you. No worries. I think we'll call it a day.
Yes. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. If you remake me host for a second,
sure.
I'm sure there's no problems in the saving this video. That would be tragic. Yeah, if anybody's interested in donating to the charity, just go to the YouTube video. The link will be there. And the link is also currently in Zeshan's IG. We will be looking to diversify content on Blockchain Sensei again. Obviously, so far we've only spoken about digital assets for the past year and a half, so it's amazing that we're now talking about property. If you'd like Zeshan back, please do leave some nice comments, and I'm sure we can arrange something else. Thank you so much.
Zeshan in Biryani today.
Yeah.
I saw Haroon trolling, man, in the comments.
Yeah, just call me and you can come over for some food.
All right. Thank you very much, guys.
No worries.
Thanks,
Take care,
guys.
everyone.